Welcome back to the TCI headquarters. Time for our preview and predictions. Clemson's first ACC game of the season, a huge one. JP's in town this week, so we got him joining us. So you won't just read his prediction story, you'll be able to hear him discuss it here as well. JP, since you're our guest of honor, I'm going to let you go first and not let Will go first. So we'll shake him up a little bit.
I talk too much.
That's true. It's not going to be hard to talk
No comment.
less than Will. That's going to be hard. I told him not to wear Steeler stuff. You guys heard me in the video last week, and what does he do? Okay. All right, JP, talk to us about what you think some of the keys to the game are.
First and foremost is stopping that running game of North Carolina State. It's like you heard, we kind of heard Dabo Swinney talk about it a little bit Tuesday. Everything they do, it kind of starts with that running game. They want to create explosives off that running game, use the play action. So if you can slow that running game down, that's a big start in slowing that offense down.
All right, Will, what's your key?
I'm going to go on the opposite side of that because I think the key is going to be Phil Maffa and the Clemson running game. I think the Tigers last year, if you look at when they started moving the ball against North Carolina State in that game, going against that 3-3-5 defense, is when Phil Maffa came in after Will Shipley got hurt, and they had a hard time stopping him. They could not stop him. He ran for 84 yards on 12 carries in that game, I believe, and got Clemson back in the game and gave the Tigers a chance to tie it there at the end. I think he's going to be huge tomorrow, Saturday, in this game because if they can get 4 or 5 yards a pop with him, it's going to open up the passing game because now they're going to have to commit to the run like they did in that game, late in the game, and it'll allow Clemson to open up some plays downfield. We'll see if that can really turn into
I got a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
What's different in the offense this year versus last year when we played NC State and Maffa had to carry the load?
Well, the difference is that they got those two wide receivers.
Receivers got better.
But the defense is the scheme they play though. It prevents big plays from happening. It's the whole point of what the scheme is.
Let me ask you another question. Tennessee NC State game.
Tennessee ran the ball on.
But they didn't really need to.
Well, they did. They did in the first half though. They really did. And so like they established the run, and then NC State had to start loading the box to try to stop the run, and then that's when Tennessee started going over the top of them. I think Clemson's got to have the exact same game plan. They got to start with Phil Maffa, establish the run, make them have to get out of that shell defense they like to play. And once they do that, you get the one-on-one matchups on the outside, and I think that's where Clemson can have a big advantage.
All right, we're going to agree to disagree.
Okay.
We all have different keys. My key is going to be Clemson's passing game. Last week, of course, they're a much different opponent, but we saw them just be aggressive, throwing the ball long, West go, boom, boom. They may not be able to do that if State's back, but you got Brenningstool and you got all these other weapons. Predict we will see TJ Moore. We talked about this off camera earlier this week. It's likely we could see him in the starting lineup this week. So I think the key for Clemson is to come out and build on what we saw from the offense last week, which was explosiveness, receivers stepping up, all of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously the freshmen causing the other guys to have to step up their game to get on the field. And I want to see Cade pick up where he left off. Obviously he's not. We talked about it Tuesday. He's not going to go 22 or 24 for 26.
No,
but you'd like for him to get some early confidence. That's
right.
what we saw last week. Boom, boom, and then that took off.
And it also helps that last year he played against this defense last year, so he's played against it. He's seen it before, so he's going to know how to. And then the next thing, and I think Dabo Swinney pointed it out in his press conference this past week, he doesn't have to worry about number 11, Peyton Wilson. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal in this game that guy is now playing in the NFL.
So no self-inflicted mistakes like the pick six we saw in this game last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
That really hurt them. Really only 3 plays beat them last year. NC State had they opened on their opening drive, I believe, a 56-yard reverse with Concepcion. Then they end up getting the pick six, and then they later in the game when things got tight, they ended up getting the 75-yard touchdown on a slant pass on third and short, and he breaks it because Clemson lost inside containment. By the way, that corner is no longer with Clemson anymore. He never played again after that play because he gave up inside containment to that receiver, and he took it to the house for a touchdown. They beat Clemson on 3 plays. If you look at the rest of that game, I think NC State had under 200 yards of offense. If you take, I know that sounds like Kevin Steele. I know it does, but it really was 3 plays that beat them in that game.
If you look at Concepcion's like receiving numbers, it was that big pass play. Outside of that, they kept him in check. It was that one play.
He's a stud.
One play.
He is a stud. He's one of the best receivers Clemson's going to play all year, hands down. Maybe the best.
And JP, your thing, stopping the run, some of that's going to probably, the Clemson's ability to do that at their highest level is going to depend some on whether we see Peter Woods in that starting lineup or not. And stopping the run is not really, especially on the edge, that's not Peter's strength.
No, it's not.
He's destructive and all those other things. So it'll be interesting to see, if he does go and he's not 100%, how does that impact that? And if he doesn't go, and we've got somebody else out there on the edge, how does that?
Let me throw this at you. Because what they were doing a lot with Peter Woods at Georgia and App State was they're playing a lot of odd front. And so you saw Peter Woods is playing defensive end, but he wasn't necessarily like the rush end. If he was playing more the run. So I wonder if he does play, do you play him in a position where you kind of go back to that 4-3 look, and you got a traditional defensive end like Lawson out there or somebody like that, Hoffler or somebody that's out there playing traditional defensive end, and you got Woods to kind of be the guy to just be a run stuffer. Maybe that's a way you get him to play and not have to put too much on him.
It's time for my statement I get into every video. It'd be nice if you had a little depth there in defensive.
Yes.
That was
We're in game 3, and this is already a huge issue. Peter Woods being out.
That was one spot I thought they should have looked in the portal for every offseason. You got very little depth there, particularly experience.
Experience depth, yeah. I think bodies are there, but
Peter Woods is not a defensive man.
No, he's not.
He's a great athlete, so they can move him out there, but he's not a defensive man.
No, he's not. He'll tell you that.
The fact that you have to move him out, Dabo won't tell you that. But the fact that you got to move him out tells you don't have what else you need on the roster.
I think Peter would tell you that.
And then you don't go out there and do it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, now we get to the real part.
The real crux.
The real crux. And JP, I'm going to let you go first again. This is where we give our prediction on what we think the score is going to look like.
Yeah, I think this is a game Clemson's going to win. This North Carolina State team, kind of similar to Florida State's, kind of seeing you can't just put all these pieces together out of the portal and expect them to gel day one. They've had some issues on offense. I think that's going to continue Saturday, and in front of that raucous crowd, I've got Clemson 31-17.
You scared me for a second, and you stuck with the 31. So you said, though, according to you, he's saying take NC State plus the 20.5, which is what the line is right now, because you're saying they're not covering it, 31-17. However, I'm saying they are going to cover, backdoor cover probably, but I think Clemson's going to win this 34-13. I think NC State is not very good on offense. They've had trouble running the football. They don't have enough consistency on offense. Concepcion's really the only playmaker they got, and it's obvious they try to get the ball to him. I think Clemson can take him out of the game and take him away from them.
Have a freshman
they got
quarterback.
A freshman quarterback playing.
None of us said that.
We hadn't even talked about that.
That's a key.
That's a key. C.J. Bailey's going to make his first start ever. Like you said, a true freshman. I think that's going to play big, especially with this home crowd. Clemson probably as good as anybody on noon kickoff games at home. I got to give Clemson crowd credit. They generally come ready, and I'm thinking they're going to in this game as well. So if NC State's thinking, well, we got a noon kickoff, we don't got to worry about the energy in the stadium, I think that's wrong. I think Clemson crowd will be ready to go and try to help push them through a victory. So, I just think there's too much for NC State to overcome, with Clemson, and I think Clemson's offense is going to be much better this year against that defense for what we already talked about. And so, 34-13, I think the Tigers cover. Maybe a backdoor late score to put the game away.
And Will didn't go 17 this week.
I didn't. 34-13.
Yeah.
We switched. I had 13 last week.
I knew he was going to have 17, so that's why I let him go first. I figured you were going to go, can't use my number. All right, last week's prediction. You guys know I like to be a little optimistic on the Clemson prediction sometimes. But obviously after Georgia game, I said, I got to see it. I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the offense. Hadn't needed to see them do it. Well, guess what?
They did it.
We saw it. We saw one of the best performances we've seen in
Actually, the
ever.
best, technically.
Yeah,
Statistically, the best.
best half for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to normal. I think Clemson is going to they're not gonna have 56 points in the first half, but I think they're gonna put a lot of points on the scoreboard. I think they're gonna do a pretty good job of holding it down. I think one of the big differences this week will be you're not gonna see the third team defense in there in the second half. You're gonna see the starters playing most of the game. Might see some late based on my score, but I'm gonna go with a big win for the Tigers. I think they want to continue to make statements. I think they're gonna build on that confidence. The only question for this offense really was the quarterback play, and could he play at the high level? Super high level last week, may not be quite as high this week, but I'm gonna go Clemson 45, NC State 17.
Okay, you went with the 17.
I'm gonna go with 17. I'll join you, JP, but I think it's gonna be a fun afternoon. I know the fans wish it was gonna be a night game. We all glad to have a noon game.
Yeah, we're happy personally.
We are happy.
I know fans aren't. But
We'll be back in here watching the night
games.
game.
But they'll be happy next week,
All of that.
right? Because it's
That's
the
right.
night games.
You'll be happy next week, and we'll be working it in here
2
at 2 in the morning.
And please, ABC, announce the Florida State game will be a noon kickoff. That would be great.
That would be very good. And that would be, I don't know, they would probably love to give both of those teams that are playing in that game a hard time. So what's the worst kick time they could give us? Maybe what would be 8 o'clock CW.
I was about to say,
I was about to say 8 o'clock CW would be the worst you could get. Yeah. Oh man.
We'll see.
That's what Duke's on this week, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's what we got. Noon games the rest of the way would be outstanding, but expect the Valley to be hopping. Everybody's excited.
Another sellout.
After last week, another sellout. I mean, it was impressive last week that they sold out App State. You know, App State had a ton of people there.
They did.
A bunch
And
of folks
NC State will
come
bring
down the
people.
mountain, and they left early and went back up the mountain.
We know there's only 2 fan bases, and I guess you can say 3 with Florida State, but not as much lately. But we know there's 3 fan bases. Is Florida State, Virginia Tech, and NC State that will travel with their team. So NC State's going to bring a good crowd. They sold out their allotment, and that's what you like to see. Not like North Carolina, who had a top 25 team coming in the Valley last year and sold only 400 tickets.
NC State thought.
do they play football at Chapel Hill?
Well, they obviously don't care to. I mean, can you believe that? That's
NC
ridiculous.
State thought they were going to be winning their ACC championship finally this year.
Well,
How's that looking?
look. I hope they don't, obviously, because they start the season in the Valley. But this is their first conference game too, so technically they're not out of the ACC race. Technically,
No, but they're not.
but if whoever wins this game is in good position to beat that other team in the ACC title. Because
Absolutely.
you look at NC State's schedule after Clemson, it's really weak. And obviously Clemson after that then would just have Florida State, which is not as good as we thought they were going to be. And then you got Louisville, and that's really it for Clemson. So right now it's a 3-game schedule for Clemson. It's a 1-game schedule, I think, for NC State. If they were to come in and upset Clemson, that would be a huge one.
I don't want to hear that. You just don't want to have to schedule off.
I know Dabo don't want to hear it, but I'm just stating the truth.
All these
Say those road games in November.
all those fan bases.
Yeah, I guess I can see why
Getting
you'd be
on
worried
this
about
guy.
Pitt and Virginia Tech.
I mean, Pitt Clemson game, they probably have a packed house unlike the Steeler games.
Well, see, I'm already counting. Wow, that's horrible. You just picked. I'm already counting on the Pitt game, and it being a good weekend for me because it's Pitt Clemson up there, and then the Steelers beat the Ravens the next day afterwards. So I'm counting on a good trip
on
to Pittsburgh.
Saturday. We'll have a good start to the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys, stay tuned to TCI this weekend. We'll have everything covered from Clemson, Death Valley. We'll be back here, provide coverage all afternoon, and hopefully we're talking about a Tiger team that's building momentum and 1-0 in the ACC. Stay tuned to TCI for the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics, Clemson football, and recruiting. All right, JP, that's how we do it. We got to give Will a little shit during the video.
So that's the norm.
He's used to it.
I am.
This is BT Potter. Make sure to check out the Clemson Insider's most complete football coverage. Nobody does it better.